Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be making a Hexblade Warlock build. I know we've talked a lot about Hexblade, whether you're dipping into it or splitting into a multi-class version of it, but we have yet to make a build dedicated to the Hexblade since it's been officially released. Now, real quick about Hexblade, it was one of those classes I was most excited for, especially when I was starting a new playthrough for the final patch. But as soon as I hit Act 2 with the Hexblade, I just wasn't having fun with it and I decided to respec it into another class. Well, what the heck do you mean there, Mr. Nomad? Hexblade's one of the strongest subclasses in the game. What do you mean you weren't having fun with it? I know, and I'll kind of explain my mental block I had towards it during the video so you can kind of see where I'm coming from. It's completely ridiculous and just a me problem, but it is a hurdle I had to get over. But that is basically why it's taking me so long to do a dedicated Hexblade build. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's move on to the character creation section here, and we're going with Warlock. Now we get to pick our cantrips here. We're going to start off with Booming Blade and Eldritch Blast. These two are essentially the bread and butter of most Warlocks, and that's no different here. For our subclass, we're going with Hexblade, and with Hexblade we get Bind Hex Weapon, which is going to make our bound weapon magical, and there's a chance we'll apply Hexblade's curse when we hit a target, and that percentage chance is actually pretty high. In addition to Bind Hex Weapon, we also pick up Hexblade's curse. This is a class action. Now this will come back on short rest, but when a target has the Hexblade curse debuff on them, your damage rolls will have a bonus to them. The roll you would need for a critical hit is reduced by 1, and if the target dies, you will regain some hit points. And the final subclass feature here is Hex Warrior. We gain proficiency with medium armor, shields, and martial weapons. And the best part about this is our hex weapon that we bind to will be scaling off our charisma modifier instead of strength or dexterity. So not only does charisma help our spells out, but now it's going to help our martial weapon as well. Moving to spells here, I think taking Hex is an amazing choice. This is really nice for your spell economy. And then either Shield or Hellish Rebuke as a reaction. I'm going to take Shield just for a little bit of more survivability. And when it comes to your background and your race, those are all completely up to you. And then moving to our abilities, we want to stack Charisma, and then we want to have some points into Dexterity and Constitution. So that's character creation out of the way. Let's just name our character real quick. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. We're just going to go with Lady and call it a day. Alright, moving on to leveling. We get to pick up another spell slot. I would go with something like Hellish Rebuke. This is a really good offensive reaction ability, but Armor of Agathis, this is a good choice too. If you want to do a little bit of AoE, Arms of Hadar, not a bad choice. The only one that I really stay away from is Wrathful Smite, and that's because of the investment for this spell, because it costs an action, a bonus action, and a spell slot, and a concentration. Just a lot of investment for this Frighten effect here, and you can just get this in much easier ways with something like a Battle Master Fighter instead. So this one is the only spell I would stay away from. Really not worth it. And then we have our Eldritch Invocations here. I would go with Agonizing Blast. We still are going to be using Eldritch Blast, so this is going to add our Charisma modifier to it. And then I would go with Devil's Sight here, just so we can see in both normal and magical darkness. So that's level 2. Let's move on to level 3. Now at level 3 here, we unlock the level 2 spell slots for Warlock here. I'm going to go with Darkness because we took Devil's Sight, but something like Misty Step is a really good choice too. You could take Shadow Blade, but this isn't the type of weapon I'm going to be using for this build. So right now, I'm just going to take Darkness, and then we get our Pact boon. You got to go with Pact for the Blade. This isn't going to do much for us right now, but when we hit level 5, this is going to give us extra attack. So that's level 3 out of the way. Let's go to level 4. Moving to level 4. What is Lady doing turned around? Hang on. There we go. That's better. All right, level 4 here. We get another cantrip. I would pick a utility cantrip here. So something like Friends or Minor Illusion or even Mage Hand. Those are going to be some good choices. We also pick up another spell slot. This is where I'm going to pick up Misty Step for that mobility. Now we can talk about our feats. So this is where I want to talk about that mental block that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. And that's because of the weapon choice when it comes to Hexblades. Now, a lot of people are just going to use two-handed weapons like a greatsword, or go sword and shield because you are proficient with shields as a Hexblade. But that role in that playstyle, I don't know. I have it ingrained in my head as a fighter and a paladin. I like to use sword and board, a great sword with them. That's just what's ingrained in my head. So when it came to a Hexblade, doing that same style just wasn't working for me until I decided to do Polearm Master. I usually am not a fan of using halberds or polearms in general, just for again, paladin and fighter. They just didn't work for me. But for Hexblade, this works for me now. I like this a lot. So it's totally a me version, but yes, we're going to be focusing on polearm. So Polearm Master, this is going to be a great feat to pick up. We're going to pair that with Great Weapon Master later on at level 8, or you could switch these up depending on, how you want your Hexblade to be built out. But just now, I'm going to be picking up both of these feats. Now, for our last feat that we're going to get, or our third one, I should say, Ability Improvement, sure, bump up your Charisma. Alert can be a decent choice as well. Polearm Master with Sentinel, not a bad choice either. Savage Attacker, also a really good one. Basically, any of the normal martial feats are going to be a good choice here. But for right now, I'm going to go with Polearm Master, and we can move on to level 5. Now, moving on to level 5, our Pact of the Blade gets the Deep Impact, meaning we get that extra attack now. This is fantastic for martial characters. We pick up another spell. This is where I'd pick up Hunger of Hadar. This is a great AoE ability. Not only does it do damage, but it also does a bit of crowd control as well. For our next Eldritch Invocation here, I would go with Beguiling Influence if you're the face of the party, but I also like Fiendish Figure and Repelling Blast. Those are kind of the ones that I bounce between. And I think for this build right now, I'll just go with Fiendish Figure just for that a little bit of extra temporary hit points. And with that, we can move on to level 6. Now at level 6 here, we get the next main feature for being a Hexblade, and that is your Cursed Spectre. So if you kill a target that has Hexblade's curse on them, you will then summon a Spectre to fight alongside you. And depending on how powerful the enemy is that you defeat, will determine the type of Spectre you get. There are 3 tiers of Spectre. Obviously, the more powerful the enemy, the more powerful the Spectre you will get. We also pick up another spell. I would pick up Elemental Weapon. This is probably going to be my main concentration. I kind of swap from Hex to Elemental Weapon because I think Elemental Weapon a little less maintenance as far as having to recast it all the time. But if you enjoy using Hex still as like single target damage, that's completely fine. Let's move on to level 7. At level 7, let's pause and let's talk about multi-classing, because I think that Spectre is the last big feature that Hexblade gets. And it's a good time to pause and again talk about multi-classing. Now when it comes to multi-classing with Hexblade, everything works, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it. Hexblade is just really good with everything, especially obviously the classes that share that spell modifier. So Bard, Paladin, Sorcerer, they all really benefit from Hexblade. But don't think that you can't multi-class into Cleric or Druid and just pick up some utility spells. They all work. And the simple reason why is your weapon and then your spells, they all share the same modifier with Charisma, which gives you a lot of wiggle room as far as when it comes to multi-classing to just kind of pick whatever you want. Obviously, if you take something like Paladin, you're going to get Divine Smite. And when it comes to Tactician mode and lower, if you take any martial class that gets extra attack like Fighter, Paladin, Bard at level 6, then that extra attack will stack on top of your Deep Impact, giving you 3 attacks. Again, that only works on Tactician mode. So essentially when it comes to Hexblade here, pick what you want for multi-classing and have a great time. For the rest of the video, we're going to continue leveling Hexblade. So let's head to level 7. Well, technically we're already at level 7, so we're just going back. Anywho, we unlock the next level of spells for Warlock here. None of these I would say make or break the build. Blight can be really good, Dimensional Door. I do like taking Greater Invisibility sometimes, especially if you have a Ranger, but also something like Counterspell can be good, and Mirror Image. It's just as Warlock here, we're very limited on how many spells we can use, and I already think we picked up the ones that I would say are more important and kind of mandatory for this build. So we can move on to our Eldritch Invocation, and I'd probably go with Repelling Blast or Beguiling Influence. These newer ones we just unlocked aren't that great in my opinion, so let's move on to level 8. And at level 8 here, we're going to pick up another spell. I like taking Mirror Image, and we also pick up our second feat. Already talked about I was going to take Great Weapon Master, so let's move on to level 9. At level 9 here, we unlock our next level of spell. Taking Banishing Smite is a lot of fun. I really like this spell, even though it's a heavy investment. I just think Banishing Smite, it's very cool. So I'm going to go with that one. And then we get another Eldritch Invocation. And for this one, it's just kind of pick up what you need. I'm going to take Beguiling Influence, just acting like this is going to be the face of the party. And we can move on to level 10. Now at level 10 here, we pick up another subclass feature. We get Armor of Hexes, so if a target has Hexblade's curse on you and they attack you, you can potentially nullify some of the damage, so that's some nice survivability. We get another cantrip. I'm going to take Minor Illusion. And for our spells here, I'm going to take maybe Hold Monster if somebody doesn't have this, just because this is a very powerful control spell, especially against bosses in Act 3. But with that, we can head on to level 11. And moving on to level 11 here, we get our final Warlock spell slot. So we have 3 spell slots that'll come back on short rest. That's really nice. We also unlock our Mystic Arcanum. I am going to go with something like Circle of Death here. Obviously, any of these are a good choice, but I want a big AoE ability just in case I need to do a lot of damage. And then for the spell we're going to pick up here, we kind of have everything we already need. I'm just going to pick Cone of Cold. This can be useful as well. And move on, and we're going to move on to level 12. Now, level 12, let's just go straight to our Eldritch Invocation, and let's get Life Drinker. This is a must pick. You only unlock this at level 12. Really useful. Circling back to our spells, I'm just going to pick up something like Remove Curse. Again, not a big deal in what we're choosing there. And then for our feat, I'm going to bump up our Charisma, but again, we already talked about feats a little bit. Alert's really good, Sentinel's really good, and so is Savage Attacker for this build. And so that's it for leveling. Let's move to the gameplay and equipment section. Now moving to the equipment section here, usually when it comes to equipment with my builds, I usually don't like to make a big fuss about them because I like to provide a framework that'll work with basically anything that your party comes across, because I don't know where you are in your campaign, and I don't want a player to feel like that they would watch this video, they'd see a build and realize, oh, I missed that piece of equipment back in Act 1, or I didn't make that decision, and that would feel really bad. So nothing is gear dependent with this build, but there are some fun things going on with some stuff that you can get from Act 1 and Act 2. So let's take a look at Will here. This will be a level 8 gameplay section because I feel like we have all the pieces for Hexblade, and I like to change it up a bit. But the fun equipment I want to look at here is the Potent Robe. So again, you get this in Act 2. And the Gregarious Caster there. Your cantrips deal additional damage with your Charisma modifier. That works beautifully with Warlock. That's kind of a no-brainer. We're also using the Helldust gloves here for more fire damage, or I'd say a 1d4 fire damage. And then the Necklace of Elemental Augmentation. This is going to add our spell modifier to when we do thunder damage, which in this case is Booming Blade. So again, our cantrip here is getting super juiced. Now this is the real item that I kind of want to talk about here is Ring of Elemental Infusion. Prior to the final patch, I always thought this ring was interesting but not all that useful. But now that we have Booming Blade, that element, so thunder in this instance, will be added to our weapon for the next 2 turns to deal an additional 1d4. So our halberd here is going to be doing just like ticks and ticks and ticks of different types of damage, and it gets a little crazy. And another reason why I wanted to do Polearm Master with my Hexblade here is because we get Polearm Clout with our bonus action no matter what. Obviously, we want that Great Weapon Master to proc, and then that'll do a little bit more damage, but at the very least, we're going to open up with our Booming Blade. That's going to proc a lot of our equipment here, and that especially with Elemental Infusion. And then we'll do a regular attack, which will use one of the infusions. And then for a bonus action, we're either going to hit him with the back end of our polearm, or maybe we'll have a Great Weapon Master proc. So a lot of damage going out for this Hexblade Warlock. We're a very, very powerful melee character. But let's not forget, we're also a strong spellcaster at the same time because we have something like Hunger of Hadar. But I think that's enough jibber jabber. Let's go ahead and get into the mix. We have a Elixir of Vigilance procced here, so we're going to be first in the turn order, and we're here just at Moonrise again in Act 2. We've kind of where I stopped playing Hexblade and did that switch, so we're kind of returning to the spot with a little bit of vengeance. So let's go ahead and enter turn-based mode. We are going to be using a Potion of Speed to hurry this along. This video has taken a little bit longer than I would have liked, and that's mostly because I have a newborn now, so for those of you who are parents, know that that usually takes up all your time. But let's go ahead and chug the Potion of Speed, and then we're just going to open up on this guy with Booming Blade. Beautiful. He's very upset, and let's just attack. Now he's real hurt, and we should probably finish him off. Unfortunately, he doesn't have Hexblade's curse on him, so let's go ahead and just apply it ourselves. So now when he dies, and hopefully we can kill him with this hit here. Nice. Now we can summon our Spectre. And I think this is the lesser Spectres. Actually, no, this is the medium tier Spectre. He's not the lower one, so I think he's called a lesser Spectre. So we got him up. That's going to be nice to have. Now let's go ahead and move over here, and we will just... Actually, I want to take a look at the left-hand side there. I picked up Fire Infusion. This is supposed to be Thunder Infusion from that ring, but for some reason we picked up Fire Infusion. I think that has something to do with our Helldust gloves, but either way, I'm not complaining. Let's go ahead and just hit this guy. Now he has... I was going to say he got Hexblade's curse on him, and you see that our Spectre there got into the mix and did a follow-up attack. So just a lot of damage. Now we have that Potion of Speed, so we get another action, so we can do... Dog was going crazy. Where were we? Oh, that's right. We're going to hit a booming blade and we're going to take out this guy. And you get back to because you had Death Ward. Not a problem. You can go ahead and just bonk. Okay, we missed, and that's okay. We can end our turn and kind of see what they do. I bet our Spectre will actually take them out. Ghouls are coming in, and now because we're Polearm Master, we can go ahead and hit them when they get close to us. A lot of damage there. Free damage. Yes, he did it. I'm not gonna lie, we kind of took out these two guys really quick, and there's some pretty beefy enemies for, you know, this is Act 2, but this guy's got 75 health and Death Ward. This got 91. He's like that Paladin Warden type. So there was this was some pretty strong guys we just took out really quick, and these ghouls are they're not gonna be a problem. Go ahead and pop your gun. Elemental Infusion down there with Thunder. Let's do a follow-up attack. Perfect. But anyways, we got one ghoul left here. Let's go ahead and hit him with Polearm Cloud, just because you guys can see here. So in the tooltip there says 7 or 4 to 7 damage. That's not true. It's going to take in effect Great Weapon Master as well, so it's going to do 10 additional damage to this. So let's go ahead and hit him. Bonk. He's dead.
In that corpse, brimming with potent magic.
But yeah, anyways, guys, yeah, that's the build. That's the video. Really strong. I mean, I've got full health there against all those target. A really strong solo build, I think, too. But anyways, let me know how you guys like to build your Hexblade as far as like the weapon. I know Rapier's probably high up on the list too, but that's kind of fits more like a swashbuckler for me. I don't know. I'm kind of weird. Hopefully I explained my weirdness well enough to, you know, you don't have to go Polearm Master, but this is kind of what my vibe is toward Hexblade and stuff. So, anywho, I'm gonna go take a nap now. Peace. And some say even to this day, Nomad is still napping.